Madam Secretary, may I have a roll call, please?
Okay. Ms. Brooks?
Here.
Dr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Brock?
Present.
Ms. McKessie?
Here.
Mr. Tate?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
Dr. Thorwald?
Here.
Mr. Block?
I am here.
Mr. Byron?
Here. With public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board. We would ask that you limit your comments to no longer than 3 minutes. Please consider the fact that there may be young children in the audience or watching this broadcast live on CRTV when speaking. It's our goal to maintain a respectful environment so that members of our community have an equal opportunity to address the board without interruption. While the board welcomes your ideas and will consider them in deliberating an issue, we may not respond directly to your comments or questions. First, I have Cindy Long.
Hello.
Hi there.
What I'd like to address you about is something that's obviously a fait accompli, and so I just have a question which I don't actually expect an answer to. But I had been in attendance at meetings with the district support staff last month, and the audience there was told that the rationale for needing to furlough people who work directly with students and to cut the hours of vital clerical personnel were directly due to two things. The district was in bad financial straits because its reserve funds were projected to sink to problematic levels over the next 4 years. And secondly, the payments to our pensions was stressing the district's ability to pay. So given that, and given the fact that including temporary people who were hired over the last year, that we let go 30 support staff who work directly with students, and that we're eliminating some key clerical positions, I find the timing of our of hiring an assistant superintendent kind of alarming. If the district's rationale to furlough and eliminate so many support staff positions was actually necessary, why is adding this position to a fairly large administrative detail so important at this moment? Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, are there any other further public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Carroll, Newtown Borough. It's over 2 years since the Planning Commission made its report that the district should be more efficient in its buildings and close at least one, maybe 2 elementary schools, close a middle school, get rid of trailers, get rid of LSAT lease, find a place to put the 20 Ford facility. And when you look at all those recommendations, there's like, we still have LSAT, we still have 20 Ford, we don't know where we're going with the alternative students. We haven't even have no idea if we're going to close an elementary school or two, or where it would be. And for me, every time a year goes by that we don't make a move to those things, that's money that we could have in our budget. You know, if we totally got rid of LSAT, it's not a lot, but all those nots a lot add up. So I'm hoping that this year you'll start to make progress in making decisions that will make the buildings more efficient. I'd like to thank Mr. Rowe for his awesome presentation at the finance meeting. I encourage anyone who's interested in busing to see that not is he only doing a great job, but he has great plans for the district. And I believe, as I do with the new superintendent and the appointment that you're going to make tonight, that hiring from the outside certainly has its advantages because you're not wedded to the way we always do things. You take that into account and you bring new ideas. And I think we're fortunate to be able to have new people in our administration because so far it's proved very well for the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Okay, with that, I would ask Mr. Tate to read our first or our only item for board approval with the next special meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Block. I move to elect Dr. Susan Elliott to the newly created position of Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning of the Council Rock School District for a term of 5 years, starting August 1, 2016, pursuant to and in accordance with the Council Rock School District Assistant Superintendent's Agreement attached to this agenda.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Grubb. Dr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Block. To the board, you have a recommendation before you this evening for the position and the recommendation for an assistant superintendent for teaching and learning. We did have a total of 58 candidates apply for this position, and we interviewed 19 of those candidates. We had an interview committee that consisted of 18 educators, and then, as you know, some of our board members were also able to participate in that interview process during the finalist round. The 18 educators that we had participate as part of our interview committee consisted of the following. We had 4 cabinet members. We had 3 building principals. We had an elementary principal, a middle school principal, and a high school principal. As part of our committee, we had 5 curriculum coordinators, most of whom also teach in the school district, and we had 6 other teachers also as part of our committee. The committee's recommended choice here this evening is Dr. Susan Elliott. Dr. Elliott experienced a total of 8 interviews as part of this selection process. You heard that right. She experienced 8 interviews as part of this process over 5 different rounds. So we were nothing if not thorough as we went through this process. And she is tonight the unanimous recommendation amongst the educators who were part of this process. So again, we had 18 educators as part of the committee, and 18 for 18, all 18 of the educators as part of our committee unanimously recommend Dr. Elliott for this position here this evening. Dr. Elliott has 25 years in public education. She currently serves as a supervisor of English language arts for the Westchester Area School District. And importantly, the foundation of her career is having spent 15 years teaching in the classroom. And we do know that all roads lead to the classroom. She has an earned doctorate degree from the University of Pennsylvania, and she has also served on numerous statewide committees through the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I will quickly comment from a financial standpoint because it was mentioned earlier this evening, and I have seen it mentioned a time or two in the days leading up to today as well. From a cabinet standpoint, we typically have our cabinet here at these meetings, but this evening is a special meeting, so most of them are actually out of town right now. From a cabinet standpoint, we are not adding a cabinet position. So it's very important. It has been stated, but it's important to state that again. It is a reorganization at the cabinet level. Barry Desco will be having an expanded position, moving from Director of Secondary Education to Director of K-12 Education. And that's happening because we have eliminated the position of Director of Elementary Education. So right now we have 7 cabinet members in addition to myself. We will still have 7 cabinet members in addition to myself. So that's really headcount neutral at the cabinet level. From a broader administration standpoint, we have also eliminated one of our supervisors of special education. So that is a budgetary reduction at the administrative level beyond that. And we have also eliminated the position of coordinator of the federal programs, ELL program, LINKS program, and a number of other responsibilities that were held by that person, all of which responsibilities will now be taken over by administrators within the school district. So please do know that we did just indeed go through a very, very difficult budget cycle. And that did hit our support staff. It also hit our professional staff, and indeed it did hit our administrative staff as well. So this evening, certainly pleased, again, through the unanimous actions of our committee and on behalf of our interview committee, it is my pleasure to recommend to the board this evening Dr. Susan Elliott as Council Rock School District's Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning.
Thank you, Dr. Frazier. Before we move to this motion, are there any comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Dr. Frazier. I'm sorry?
Comment. I have a comment.
Oh, okay.
No problem. No problem.
Mr. Grubb.
Someone spoke to the, why are we replacing this? And I've seen some chatter about that in Facebook and other places. With the number of members we have in the administrative staff within the district, in the administration of the district, we actually have fewer administrators than many school districts around us. The second observation has been made, someone has said, well, the school district ran for 11 years without an assistant superintendent. So we're clear. Dr. Scott, who I don't know when he started, but he concluded being the superintendent around 97, I believe. He had an assistant superintendent. That was Dr. Kirby. Dr. Kirby then became the superintendent, and he served till 2004, and he had an assistant superintendent who was Denise Carr. When Mr. Klein became the superintendent of schools, initially upon joining, he had Robert Winters, who was previously the superintendent at Central Bucks, who came to act as the assistant superintendent during Mr. Klein's initial presentation and acclamation to the district. The other thing we have to keep in mind, or at least I keep in mind, is that Mr. Klein came to the district after having spent over 20 years in the district prior to becoming the superintendent. He had very deep and thick roots within the community and was well known throughout. We have hired a superintendent. Someone spoke to the aspect of hiring from outside of the district, and that's good. And I think we've done a wise choice in choosing Dr. Frazier. But one of the challenges there for Dr. Frazier always is both learning the administrative side of it and learning the community side of it. And we've asked him to do both tasks, and it is a monumental task to do. Mr. Klein, on coming in, only had to learn one side of that because he already knew the community. Lastly, with Mr. Klein, probably for 11 years as he was here, I constantly harped on and couldn't get movement on having an appropriate succession planning system in place for what happens with the superintendent. If the superintendent were to leave or have to leave or be called away for family issues on a long-term basis, this district during Mr. Klein's tenure was not in a position to have someone who carried the right credentials and oversight to do it and achieve the functions that they would be achieving underneath it. I believe one of our people does have credentials. I think it's Chuck Lambert. But Chuck Lambert, as you have heard me say from here before, serves an essential role in this area, in this school district, of attending to special needs. So for me, getting someone in who is headcount neutral is appropriate. Getting someone in reflecting upon what was said about additional outside resources comes with a different view. That's great. And it also allows us to make sure that we have the appropriate protections for the district, the student, and the administrator, and the whole community. This is a valuable investment we have here, and I want to make sure that we have appropriate succession planning that should something, God, I am not wishing anything bad upon you, but, life takes many turns for many people at different times, and to protect the district, to protect the students, I think it's inappropriate, and I'm glad we are doing it after 11 years or 12 years now of not having it. So I wanted to address the questions that had come up. I'm very supportive of the appointment of Dr. Elliott, and I'm glad she has persevered through the 8 rounds of interviews.
Ms. Thomas?
I was just going to add, Dr. Fisher, I didn't know if you mentioned it, I didn't hear, but there were also board members on that committee. And so I just want to thank, it wasn't me, the other board members who sat through the interview process, but they sat with the administrators to help make the selection process.
Yes, that's correct. I believe I mentioned it, but it may have been a quick mention. So we had a total of, it was 2 different evenings, it was a total of 5 different board members. So thank you indeed.
I'd just like to say, as someone who did sit through the interviews, I was very impressed with the process because it included a wide range of people who had different perspectives, who would have opportunities to work with whoever the ultimate person was. And so the questions and scenarios and situations and perspectives really covered a very wide range. And there were no, at least in the parts that I was there were no like fluffy questions. I mean, they were really targeted, very specific, with the goals in mind that we want for the success of this person. So I feel privileged that I had the opportunity to be a part of it. So I can say firsthand that I am very excited and eager and delighted to have you join Council Rock, because I have every expectation that you're going to bring great things to us. and I can't wait to see it all unfold.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Grubb,
Yes.
Mrs. McKessie,
Yes.
Mr. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Dr. Thorwald,
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Bialik,
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks.
Yes.
Motion is unanimous. Congratulations, Dr. Elliott, and welcome.
Congratulations. As is our custom, we would invite you to the podium so you
To
may,
answer a few questions.
for round number 9.
One more interview.
I'm ready.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Frazier and board members and folks that are here this evening. This is truly a wonderful opportunity, but this actual opportunity started about 40 years ago when, give or take a few years, when I wore a very pretty dress, which my mother made for me, and carried a little book bag that my mother also made for me, and stepped off of a yellow school bus and entered Mrs. Sally Bachman's kindergarten classroom. Mrs. Bachman is the reason that I stand here before you today, excited, honored, and blessed to serve the students, the parents, the staff, and the community of Council Rock as assistant superintendent. It was in Mrs. Bachman's classroom that I fell in love with school. And when I say fell in love with school, I mean, I demanded that my parents buy me desks and chalkboards so that I could play school at home. And whether it was with dolls or friends or anybody, made up my own worksheets, all kinds of things. Mrs. Bachman was the person who instilled that love of teaching and learning and made a huge impact on me in my very first year of formal schooling. And research suggests that teachers make the biggest difference in students' lives. And I believe that I am living proof standing in front of you today showing that teachers make a big difference in your lives. Because without Mrs. Bachman's passion, her caring, her expertise as a teacher, I'm not sure exactly where my path would have gone, but I can tell you that all of those things that she was to me ignited that passion for teaching and learning and brought me here today feeling very honored and humbled and very excited to serve everyone in Council Rock as assistant superintendent. And you know, you hear Dr. Frazier talk about all roads lead to the classroom, and it is my goal and my firm belief that my role is to support what we do in our classrooms every day so that we can ensure that all of our students reach high levels of learning and the success that they need. And I'm very, very excited for this opportunity to start doing that as soon as possible with all of you and walking that journey and that road alongside of you and with you to really do what it takes for our kids. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you, Mrs. Bachman, for getting that start for me. Thank you.
What we didn't know was evidently all roads lead to the Elliott household. Desks and books and, okay, all right. Congratulations, Dr. Elliott. Welcome to Council Rock. August 1st start date, right?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Be here before we know it. Congratulations.
Now we'll move to our second round of public comment.
I know that this hiring has been a long process for the board and the administration. But as one member of the public, I couldn't wait till you got a person on for this position. As a member of the technology committee, I feel like we're at a standstill waiting for the new person to come on. And I think that you'll find in Council Rock many Mrs. Bachmans. We have points of pride all over this district. And the points of pride in one classroom and the classroom next door to it may be very different. And I think that is what is needed for this position, so that the points of pride get spread out so that the education of a child that enters Council Rock doesn't depend on what school they're in and where they seat sit in that school. Because we used to call this even 20 years ago, that Council Rock was part of the Wild Wild West. You know, that they all had good things, but there were many different things that we were doing. So integration of technology in one curriculum may be different than another. In one classroom may be different than it is in another. And what I'm really looking forward to, because I don't think that you can make anything better. I believe from your credentials that you have the ability to make it better unless you assess and see where we're at. And I would call that the state of the district. So I'm looking maybe at academic standards or a board meeting or somewhere after you get your feet wet, or some kind of report that tells the public what the state of the district is, where you want to go. And I'm really, really hoping you'll be part of the technology committee, which is made up of community members and a lot of really wonderful teachers. Thank you so much.
Any further public comment? Okay, we'll move to board comment. I know Ms. Thomas has something.
Yes, some of us were contacted today to ask anyone who's listening if they would like to volunteer for Northampton Days. It's been an 11-year tradition in Northampton. It's scheduled this year for September 11th. But what was originally 27 volunteers who have run it is down to 12 due to people not being able to serve this year, et cetera. So if there's anybody in the community who would like to volunteer for Northampton Days, contact who? Do we know?
It was in the note.
I know, but I didn't remember it, and I thought maybe one of you did.
It would be to contact Carol Dubas.
Carol Dubas, at cadubas@yahoo.com, or I'm sure if you contact the township building, they'll get you to the right person.
That's CADUBAS. Is it?
You're asking me to spell?
I know.
You have to say I know. Yes. CADUBAS@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Any more board comment this side? Anything from this side? Okay. Again, congratulations, Dr. Elliott. Welcome to Council Rock. Meeting adjourned. Outside of that.
You see all the students? Oh, you see all the football players? Yeah.